Hi everyone, thanks for joining me on the third part of my Strolling the Beltline series. Today we're picking up where I left off at Eglinton Avenue by these stairs, and we're going to head eastbound from Eglinton to Mount Pleasant Cemetery. So let's go. As you can see, this part of the trail is wide, gravel's pretty well packed, and today we're walking on a beautiful weekend afternoon. It's around 2 p.m., so you'll get a chance to see what the trail's like on a weekend afternoon in terms of like busyness. This part of the trail we will cross two roads. There are no bridges, you have to cross them. One, I believe, has a stoplight and the other has a pedestrian island. So we're walking through Forest Hill. It's an affluent neighborhood. You can see lots of mature trees, lots of leaf cover, just like the middle portion of the trail, which was from Marley to Eglinton Avenue, or the middle part that I walked. In the first part of the walk, the westernmost portion, it's less tree covered, but the path is paved and it's wide. There's lots of access points to get to it. And the most western portion, you don't have to cross any busy roads. From Bowie to Marley, there's no major road crossings, and there's a bridge over Dufferin. As you've noticed throughout the trail, it's pretty straight and it's pretty flat, so it makes for easy walking.
Paper.
So even though it's a weekend afternoon, it's not too busy. There's still lots of room for everyone to do what they need to do, whether you're running or biking or walking. Oh, our first dog of the walk. As you head eastbound on the Beltline Trail, I believe here it's called the K. Gardner Trail, it does get more busy. You can see why. There's lots of mature trees. It's definitely a more natural feel. The path is gravel. In the westernmost portion from Bowie to Marley, the trail is nice, but you don't get as much tree cover, and you walk through some more industrial commercial areas, and I don't find it as busy. So if you want a trail that's less busy but maybe not as scenic, that's a good part to go on, the western portion. If you want something that's a little more scenic, a little more natural, the eastern portion is a little better. I've probably mixed up my eastern and western a couple times. I'll put a map up so you know which way we're going, and I can point out the road crossings and generally the length of the path. This trail actually used to be a rail line path. I believe it was up until the early 1900s, it still was. And they decided when they took the tracks out to make it a pedestrian trail, which I think is wonderful.
A lot of people make that.
If you are thinking of walking this during the winter, it is not maintained. So if it's been snowy or icy, the trail is very snowy and icy. That's something to keep in mind. Also, after a big rainstorm or anything like that, this trail can get real muddy. But as you can see, lots of places to get in and off the trail. And once the Eglinton LRT is open, it will be a lot easier to access this trail. Right now, if you want to get here, you have to take the bus. And the closest subway stations would probably be Eglinton West, maybe Glencairn and Eglinton. But once the Eglinton LRT is open, it'll be a lot easier to get here. So far on this portion of the trail, the footing's been very flat and even. Honestly, the footing is much more even than the average Toronto sidewalk or Toronto road. So if you maybe had some physical disabilities, this trail would be probably okay for you to walk on. It might actually be easier than trying to navigate a Toronto sidewalk. This is pretty cool. They have backyard access to the trail. And so do these people. That's pretty cool. So I think I see some cars up ahead, so I believe that's Avenue Road. We're gonna have to cross that. In the middle section from Marley to the Eglinton Avenue Bridge, we only had to cross Bathurst in terms of busy streets. I think this way we have to cross Avenue and potentially one other busy street. There is a bridge over Yonge though. Some nice green space if you wanted to take a break, sit down, have a snack. It's another beautiful afternoon here in Toronto. I'm actually surprised how quiet the trail is. I thought it would be busier. All right, let's make this light. So you do want to be careful when crossing. I have seen cars run this red light. I think trails like this are really important, especially in an urban area. It's really nice, especially if you live, say, in a condo, to be able to get out and go somewhere that doesn't feel urban. Obviously, you can still hear cars and hear people, but just the sheer amount of mature trees and leaf cover, and even the fact that the path is gravel, just gives a more natural feel. It's relaxing. So it looks like we're coming up to another road crossing here. So this was a pretty short section between the two crossings. We do not have a light here, which I'm not particularly a fan of, running across live lanes like this. Those islands in the middle of the road do make road crossings easier. Obviously, a bridge or a light would be a lot safer, but sometimes you have to deal with whatever is given to you. So as someone with a visual impairity, that flexi leash is quite dangerous. So from my perspective, I actually couldn't see that dog was on a leash until I was real close. That's something to consider when you are walking these trails. Please keep your dog on a leash. Don't let them cross the trail on a flexi leash. Not everyone has the same amount of eyesight or physical capabilities as everyone else, and it would be great if everyone was mindful of that. That's just an example, as for someone like me who is visually impaired, that I could have easily tripped over that leash. So besides that incident, this trail has been pretty good. That's why I bring up with the physical disabilities and what it's like to walk it, because as someone who does have low vision, I appreciate that not everyone has the same capabilities to walk a trail as maybe the average person. So we have another road crossing here. It looks like a quiet residential road, which isn't bad. We're going to have these people apparently stop right in front of the trail opening. That's always helpful. So I can actually hear the subway running right now. We're walking towards Yonge Street. There is a bridge over Yonge Street. And you'll be able to see when we're on the bridge, the subway line heading north-south. That person has more athletic ability than me. So here we are on the bridge going over Yonge Street. I'll see if I can get to a good spot and show you southbound and northbound. There's a subway car right here. Let's see here. Hopefully you can see through the bars. That is looking southbound. And here we are looking northbound. We'll let this bike go past us here.
Thanks.
Yep, no problem. So we're walking over a TTC rail yard right now. And this last little portion, we're gonna walk over Yonge Street. So they have these horse statues. To be completely honest, I don't know what the significance is, but as someone who horseback rides, I like them. And here we are, looking southbound on Yonge Street. Get between these two horses here. And looking northbound. All right. Let's keep going towards Mount Pleasant Cemetery. Apparently I can't talk today. Lots of access points to get on this trail. It's very accessible. The sign back there mentioned to people that there was no winter maintenance on this trail. To the right here is our first access point to get into Mount Pleasant Cemetery. Water fountain. And like you've noticed if you've watched the whole series, this trail, again, very wide, well-packed gravel, easy walking. There's also almost no incline to this trail as well, or very minimal. And the trail is, as you can see, very straight. Lots of joggers out today. Not really one for jogging, so good for them. You can see we're getting back to some bigger buildings here to the left of us. Once you get to Mount Pleasant Cemetery, the trail does continue on to the south of it. It goes through Moore Park, and eventually you can end up at St. Clair Avenue. If you do continue this trail southbound through Moore Park, you will eventually end up at Ever Brickworks by Bayview Avenue. Evergreen Brickworks. I told you I can't talk today.
보드게임을 만들어. 아이디어 정해가지고.
I don't know if you've noticed, but on this part of the trail, there are lights, which is nice if you want to walk in the evenings. The rest of the trail is not lit, so you would have to bring your own flashlight. Also, if you walk at night, just be aware, when I have walked at night on this trail, there's been a lot of skunks. Similar to the western portion of the trail, you can see more like larger buildings here, apartment buildings. The middle part of the trail goes through mostly residential. At sort of either ends of the trail here, you get more high-rise complexes, mid-rise complexes, and in the western part, you do walk through a little bit of commercial zone. Considering we are walking through an area that's more dense, the trail is pretty quiet. Up ahead, you can see where the trail ends, and you do have to make your way through Mount Pleasant Cemetery. For today's video, I'm not going to walk through Mount Pleasant Cemetery. I'm going to end it at the end of the trail here. But the next part of the series will be making our way through Mount Pleasant Cemetery, through Moore Park, and down to Evergreen Brickworks. So here we are. Got a nice mural with the train. That's the entrance to Mount Pleasant Cemetery. And that's where we came from. So thanks again for joining me on this stroll along the Beltline Trail. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you continue to watch my series and watch the rest of my videos. Thanks so much.